All right, how's everybody doing? I'm Jeremy Langwall coming to you from Houmas House Estate and Gardens. Thanks for all my cooking family joining us today as we continue to do some cooking together. We're here in our hunter's room here in our Latil's Landing restaurant. This is one of our many rooms that we have here available for private dining, and I just love it. I love the decor here. You know, every room here at Houmas House has its own charm, and we love moving around and doing the different cooking demos throughout all the different awesome places we have here on property here at Houmas House. But let's go ahead and jump in and get started. I have a bunch of things here, and we are making classic Louisiana shrimp and corn bisque or shrimp and corn soup. And you know what? Every time I choose a recipe, I always want to try to highlight certain techniques, or there's always a reason on something I want to highlight whenever we go and choose recipes. And today, what I wanted to highlight is what I love about cooking soups. One of my favorite things to cook is both soups and sauces. It's kind of like my specialty here. And what I love about that is it's all about extracting the flavor from your ingredients. And I think this soup is a great example of it because we're going to use everything, all the ingredients. We're going to try to extract as much flavor out of it as possible. And that's what's really going to elevate this soup and give it a great flavor. Let's go ahead and get started. And as we go, we'll talk about different things. First of all, shrimp and corn soup. So we're going to jump right in with the shrimp and the corn. I got some great. If you can get shrimp with the heads or just the shells on them, that's perfect. And I've taken the shrimp and I've just peeled all the shells off of them, and then deveined the shrimp itself. But all the shrimp shells, as I peeled them, ended up in this pot. So if I even kind of take this ladle here, I'll try to show it off for the camera, but you see there's some shrimp shells right in there. I also took the corn. Let me show you a great little trick on how I like to cut the corn and save the cob. Because again, we're going to use everything. Get you a bowl, just like I have here. Nice knife. I set the corn flat on the bottom. And you can just go straight down, and that'll strip the kernels off of the cob. Just like so. And we're looking to save this cob. In fact, also, a lot of times, again, all about extracting flavor. We can actually they call this milking the cob, and it's just kind of scraping the outside because there's a lot of flavor there. I scrape that right down into the pot, and that's going to get a lot of that flavor as well. And again, we saved all the shrimp shells, we saved all the cobs, we put them in a pot and then cover that with water, a gallon of water, and then we boil it it's been boiling for about 30 minutes. And if you could just smell the aromas in this room, it smells overwhelmingly like shrimp because we're, again, extracting flavor. We got all that flavor out of here. Also, we're going to be cooking just things to think about as you cut up your onion, celery, bell pepper for the recipe. If you got little bits of those onions and celery and bell pepper, you can throw them in this pot too. Again, extracting flavor. We want to pull as much flavor out of this as we can. Let's go ahead and move over to my good old black iron Dutch oven. You know, this is probably my favorite bit of cookware to cook out of. I just love it. I went ahead and melted a cup of butter in here. And I'm going to go ahead and start sauteing my trinity of onions, celery, and bell peppers. That's going to go in. And you'll see that there's quite a bit of extra butter at the bottom, and that's exactly what we're looking for because we are making this great kind of velvety soup. We're going to use that excess butter that we're going to throw a little flour in there to make kind of a blonde roux. That's going to be the thickener for this soup. So we just got that going. Again, as that starts to cook, just a reminder to all my friends out there, all our recipes can be found online on our Houmas House website. Go to our Houmas House website. It's a great resource for finding the menus to our restaurants, finding information about all the different things we have coming up here, our upcoming events, but also our recipes as well. There's a tab called Resources. You click that, drop-down menu is going to come out, and then you press the recipe tab, and boom. There's all the recipes we've ever done. We got like 60 or 70 recipes up there, so it's a great resource. A little garlic's going to go in. And again, we're just kind of cooking that down. I love Louisiana Cajun Creole cooking because you always start off often very similar. You know, I can't tell you how many times since doing these demos, I start off with onion, celery, bell pepper, garlic, but it winds up making vastly different items whenever you get to the end, whether it's jambalaya, which is completely different from gumbo, which is completely different from a cream-based soup, which is completely different from a shrimp creole. All things that start off with just this solid Louisiana base of our trinity: onion, celery, bell pepper, and then of course garlic as well. So we just want this to kind of wilt down and kind of sweat, which just means to lightly cook it till it gets a little bit translucent. Now we're going to come in with some flour. So we started off, we're making a roux. Oftentimes you add equal parts fat, which is either butter or oil, to flour. So we started off with that cup of flour, meaning that cup of butter. So now we're going to come in with a cup of flour and just kind of slowly fold this in to those sweated off vegetables. Also, at any point, you got a comment, you got a question, anything you would like to know, we are here to help you. So drop us a comment on the Facebook page or the Instagram page. Let us know what you're thinking. We'll be looking at the comments throughout the week, and if we can answer those questions, we would absolutely love to. Just let us know. Again, you see the flour, what that flour does is it picks up all that butter, and it kind of makes this just a blonde roux. We're not looking to cook this too much, but you do cook it just for a little bit. It's called cooking the flour out of the roux, which will kind of take that kind of starchy, floury flavor. If you just cook it just very momentarily, but look, we're doing this in real time. Now look, we're going to start adding our stock to this roux that we have here. Now, of course, we want to take this because we're boiling all the heads and this and other. We got little bits here. We want to strain this. Let me show you how. But I see Jessie's waving her hand. She's got a question. What you got, Jess?
Tammy wants to know if you can use almond flour or a healthier version.
That is a great question, Tammy. Thank you for asking. I will actually have to plead ignorance on it because I've never tried it. However, that might be worth trying. I just don't know. The reason I'm hesitant into answering that question is because regular all-purpose wheat flour naturally has things like gluten in it, which acts as the thickener. I don't know if almond flour will thicken to the same amount or at the same amount of thickness. So really, I'm all about experimentation. Definitely give it a try. Since having never tried it, I just hate to give you an answer one way or another. I'm just not sure. So I have to, I don't want to make something up that I don't know. I've never used almond flour, but it might work. Now look what I'm doing here. To start adding the stock, instead of just pouring this all through a strainer, I'll sometimes take a sieve like this, I dip it into my pan, then I take my ladle, and I can just start ladling that stock right in here. Now, I'm always a big fan of, I say, man, go to your store and buy a good neutral stock like a chicken stock or a vegetable broth right out in like that soup section of your grocery store, and that's great. And you can totally do that if you don't have access to the shells of the corn cob. But really go ahead and give this a try because this is so easy. Again, it's just shrimp shells, it's just the corn on the corn cobs, and we're just kind of getting that in here. And anytime we're messing with roux, we like to go ahead and I like to just add a couple ladles, whisk it in, couples ladles, whisk it in. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We're starting to work this stock right into the roux, and instead of having to do all that measuring and this, that, and other, I'm just going to bring this stock to a boil and then keep adding my stock to the roux until it achieves the thickness that I'm looking for. So right now, as I mix it in, it's still really thick. So I'm just going to kind of keep adding a couple more ladles of this stock. Whisk that in, and right now, this is what the French would call a classic velouté, which is your classic kind of sauce or soup base. I think I can put one more hit of stock, and I think we have the thickness that we are looking for. So again, this is the base for this soup, and look at all this great flavor that we were able to achieve. We got all that good flavor from the shrimp shells and the corn on the corn cobs infused with that stock, and then also all that good onion, celery, bell pepper, garlic, and butter. This is a great base for any kind of seafood soup that you can go any direction from now. You could stop here and you've got a great base, but if you want to go in a different direction, you can add tomato. If you wanted to make an asparagus in seafood soup, you could add asparagus to this point. But we're making shrimp and corn, so let's go ahead. Let's get that corn that we have. We're going to get the corn in here. some of that. Again, love using the fresh corn. Of course, you can use a frozen corn if you don't have access to fresh, but fresh is just gonna have that extra crunch and just a little bit extra flavor to it. I see it's still a hair thick, so boom, just give it another hit of that stock. So the corn goes in. Now look, this, you know, if you're a good Cajun person, you oftentimes don't like adding a little tomato product to your soups, but if you're more of that New Orleans Creole style, oftentimes you will see the tomato go in. So that's just a cup of tomato sauce, and that's going to add a nice body and richness to the soup. Now again, oftentimes when people think of these bisques, they think of these thick, creamy soups, but look at this. As of right now, there's no dairy product other than the butter. There's no cream or milk or anything like that in here that's really making this rich. It's just all that natural flavor from the stock and the vegetables and the ingredients that we've added. So again, great base, we're gonna go there. Now let's come back to our shrimp. I got these great looking shrimp here. I'm actually gonna take a couple of shrimp, and I do this often, whether I'm cooking crawfish or I'm cooking shrimp or something with crab. Oftentimes, we wanna save that seafood and put it in right at the end, but I like to add a little bit early in the cooking process as a sacrifice of flavor. So that a few of those shrimp are gonna go in, and they're gonna cook, but those shrimp are gonna overcook. But that's okay because we're extracting flavor. So we want to get some flavor out of it. So we put some in, and then we'll come back and add the rest later. Everybody with me? Pretty simple, right? Now that we got the shrimp, we got the tomato product, we got the corn in here, this soup is coming together really good. Let's add a couple last things to it to finish it off. We're going to come back with some seasoning. Real simple seasoning, y'all. Some salt just went in. This is some great cracked black pepper. Nice and fresh, going in. I always put salt and pepper to taste. I encourage you to add a little taste until it gets seasoned to how you like it. I love having a lot of salt in when I cook. It just kind of naturally ends up that way, but I'm a wimp when it comes to spice, so I don't put as much pepper. When I start to feel the heat from that pepper, I trim back and I stop. So that's gonna go in. Again, I'm a wimp with spice, but I do like a little hot sauce. So maybe just about 4 or 5 dashes of hot sauce in. And then now we're at the point where I would taste this, see what we think about the seasoning, and then I would let this simmer for about 20 or 30 minutes. Just to kind of let all those flavors continue to marry. But for time purposes, we're just gonna kind of keep on going. So now we're at the point, if I were cooking for a party, I would stop at this point, and when I'm ready to serve, this is how I finish it. When I'm about 10 minutes or 5 minutes away from wanting to serve it, I'm going to add to it the rest of my shrimp. That'll go in because I'm just looking to lightly cook those shrimp. I don't want to overcook my shrimp. So I'll put my shrimp in at the end, get those cooking. Cream, I'm going to add cream at the end because if we add the cream too early, it will actually kind of just break up into the soup. But look how much, this is a cup of cream. Now that might seem like a lot, but look how big this pot is. It's not really a lot at all. And it's not going to make this soup too rich. It's just going to add a little bit of velvety smoothness to this soup that's really nice. So we're going to get that in there, and it looks like it's all cream, but really it's all that great stock made from the corn cobs and the shrimp shells is the base for the soup. Let that cook. I got some herbs. This is green onions, so a bunch of green onions are going to go in. Always adding our green onions at the end, because if we added our green onions too early, they're just going to cook and they're not going to be vibrant anymore, and they're just going to cook away to nothing. And then I have some chopped parsley as well. So let's get that chopped parsley in there, whisk that in there, and man, look what we got here. We just want to cook this now long enough to where, let's take a look at our shrimp. Now we're just watching to see where our shrimp is. Taste it once again to see if you're happy with the seasoning. But we are on the roll of having a really great soup here. This is classic Louisiana. And what's really great if you're kind of new to cooking, look at this right here, y'all. Shrimp is a great item to really cut your teeth on getting into cooking, because you can overcook them, but it's so simple to tell when it's cooking, when it's fully cooked. When I first started cooking, the thought of having to cook 20, 30 steaks with all these different temperatures, it was so overwhelming for me at first when I first started cooking on the restaurant line, because it was just a lot going on and wanting to cook everything perfectly. But shrimp, all you have to do is nature will let you know when they're ready. When the shrimp tail itself starts to curl and then it changes to that beautiful pink color, it's done. So there it is, guys. That's all ready to go. Let's go ahead and scoop this up and serve it. excuse me. Just come over here, get a good ladle. I like to have a lot of extra shrimp on my portion. And then also things to think about, I'm using these nice bigger shrimp, which are great, but however, anytime I'm serving a soup, these are things I think about. I typically don't like my shrimp to be, these are almost a hair too big, but that's okay for me. I almost don't want the shrimp so big that they can't fit on a spoon. Little things to think about when you are doing soup. But there it is, y'all. That is our shrimp and corn soup, a Louisiana classic. Come back with a little bit of green onions on top. We will be serving this in our restaurant. If you're in the area, love to have you by. We'll be serving this all day, Friday and Saturday. You can come get you a cup, come tour the grounds. Lots going on here. We have our Dixie restaurant attached to our Great River Road Museum is up and running. We're serving breakfast, we're serving lunch through there. Of course, our Carriage House restaurant is open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. And also, check out our Houmas House Facebook page or our website. Coming up this May 25th, we have our Gallo Wine Family of Wines wine dinner. Special menu, you can find information all about it then. But again, I'm Jeremy Langwall. Thanks so much for tuning in. Try out our shrimp and corn recipe. Give the video a like or a share. We'd love to know what you think about it. But other than that, we'll see you next week. Thank you.